Imagine walking into a room full of people. Immediately you start wondering how you appear to others. Whether your outfit looks strange, whether people can tell that you are nervous. Maybe you remember an embarrassing moment from just a few minutes ago and become convinced that everyone saw it and that everyone is still thinking about it. But what if that's not true? What if most people pay far less attention to you than you think? The truth is, we all live with the feeling that we are constantly being watched. As if an invisible spotlight is shining on us, exposing every mistake, every insecurity, and every awkward moment for everyone to see. Yet, most of the time, that spotlight exists only in our minds. Psychologists call this phenomenon the spotlight effect. It describes our tendency to greatly overestimate how much other people notice and evaluate us. Also, this cognitive bias may seem harmless, but it influences how we dress, how we speak, what risks we take, and often even the kind of life we choose to live. Most people go through life believing that the world is watching them. In reality, most people are far too busy worrying about they themselves are perceived by others. In this video, I will introduce the spotlight effect and explain how understanding it can benefit your life. The spotlight effect is a psychological mechanism that almost everyone experiences without consciously realizing it. It describes our tendency to overestimate how much attention other people pay to us. We move through the world as if a spotlight is constantly shining on us. Every mistake, every insecurity, and every awkward moment feels enormous. Yet, reality is usually very different. Think about the last time you tripped in public. In that moment, it feels as though the entire world witnessed it. You feel your face turning red and become convinced that people will remember it for hours. But in reality, most people either didn't notice or forgot about it almost immediately. How often do we remember a stranger who stumbled on the street 3 days ago? Probably never. Most people may notice such things, but they rarely pay much attention to them. Nevertheless, our own mistakes feel like events of great significance. The reason lies in how we perceive ourselves. We experience every moment of our lives through our own eyes. Our thoughts, worries and insecurities accompany us around the clock. As a result, they naturally seem more important than they are actually to others. While we spend hours worrying about a pimple on our forehead, most people either didn't notice it at all or forget about it within seconds. To us, it is the center of attention. To others, it is often just an insignificant detail. The spotlight effect becomes especially noticeable in social situations. Perhaps you given a presentation and later felt embarrassed about a small mistake. Hours afterward, you keep thinking about it and wonder whether others noticed or how nervous or insecure you seemed. Yet, while you are replaying the mistake in your mind, most listeners have probably already moved on to the next thought. They were busy taking notes, thinking about their own problems, or worrying about how they themselves appear to others. Psychologists have even demonstrated this scientifically. In a well-known experiment, students were asked to wear a noticeable and embarrassing t-shirt before entering a room full of people. Afterwards, they were asked to estimate how many people had noticed the shirt. The students believed that significantly more people had paid attention to it than actually had. In their own minds, they were standing under a bright spotlight, while most other people barely noticed them at all. But why does this happen? Because everyone is primarily focused on themselves. While you worrying about whether others notice your mistake, the person next to you may be thinking about something embarrassing they said. While you are convinced everyone is judging your outfit, someone else is preoccupied with their own appearance. Most people are not busy analyzing you, they were busy analyzing themselves. This insight is especially relevant in an age where social media shapes so much of our lives. Never before has it been so easy to compare ourselves to others. Many people spend hours editing photos, deleting posts, or rereading comments over and over again. Behind this behavior often lies the same fear, the fear of how others might perceive us. Yet the same psychological mechanism applies here. Most users scroll past within a few seconds. The post you've been worrying about for days often disappears from other people's minds just as quickly as it appeared. The spotlight effect influences not only our thoughts but also our decisions. Many people hesitate to start a new hobby because they are afraid of embarrassing themselves. They don't approach someone they find interesting because they fear rejection. They avoid sharing creative projects because they believe others will notice every flaw. Often it is not the actual judgments of other people that hold us back, but our assumption about those judgments. So what can we learn from this and how can it benefit us? Most people think about you far less than you believe. Not because you're unimportant, but because they are occupied with their own lives. Everyone carries their own worries, insecurities, and thoughts. Everyone is standing in their own imaginary spotlight. Once you truly understand this, your perspective begins to change. Suddenly it becomes easier to make mistakes, easier to try new things, easier to be yourself. Because the truth is that most of the embarrassing moments we spent weeks worrying about have long been forgotten by everyone else. Maybe there was never a spotlight shining on us in the first place. Perhaps the greatest irony of the spotlight effect is that almost everyone believes they are being watched by others, while at the same time everyone is busy feeling watched themselves. We spend a large part of our lives trying to hide our mistakes, avoid criticism, and live up to an image that others may not even have of us. We hold ourselves back because we believe the world is evaluating our every move. If most people don't remember our slip of the tongue, our unusual outfit, or the embarrassing moment that keeps us awake at night, why should we shape our lives around those fears? Why should we miss opportunities, hold back our opinions, or avoid meaningful experiences simply because we are afraid of what others might think? The truth is simple: the world is paying far less attention to us than we believe. The spotlight we constantly feeling shining on us usually exists only in our minds, and that realization brings freedom. The freedom to make mistakes, to stand out, to try new things, or to stop striving for perfection. Because in the end, people won't remember every mistake you've made, but you will remember the things you never did because you were afraid of being watched.